Hello, ma. So please give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Let me get my second phone so that I can be going through because this one now I can't minimize this to. All right. Sorry for that. Let me quickly open. Let me quickly open the course material. I have the course material before on this space, but because I'm switching device. Introduction to African Politics. So I'm going to start afresh. Recapping this thing with you. The course material, different topics in the course material. I was talking about the fact that the course has 5 modules, right? The course has 5 modules. Now, each module has selected number of units. For the first module, we have 4 units. Okay. The 4 units are, first one is talking about nature and character of African politics. Okay. Please, if you're just joining, like, share, support, and also try to subscribe to the platform. Yeah, you will not be seeing my face because I am in a place where I cannot be able to show my face. So, yeah, let's continue. We're discussing African politics, and we're going to be starting by talking about the nature and character of African politics. Okay, then after that, we will move on to talk about politics in pre-colonial Africa, the origin and problem of African politics, primordial politics and conflict in Africa. Then going forward to the module 2, we have colonialism and nationalism. Good morning, Francis. Welcome. So under this particular module, we have the meaning and nature of colonialism, then the problem and legacies of colonialism. So colonialism has its good side. It's also had its bad side. So we're going to be looking at both. And then we have the meaning and nature of nationalism. Remember that the module is all about 2 topics, that is colonialism and nationalism. Then for the 4th unit, we'll be looking at nationalism and decolonization process. So nationalism is its topic, decolonization process on that topic. So how did we move from colonialism to independence? That is what we're going to be looking at, okay? Now, in the next module, which is the module 3, we have the neo-colonialism and African economy. neocolonialism, and African economy. So under this, we have units like meaning and features of neocolonialism. We have neocolonialism is mechanism and impacts. We have the political economy of African states. And then the last unit is talking about the doctrine and reality of African socialism. Then module 4 talks about the political instability and sustainable democracy in Africa. So here we have the military in African politics. That's the first unit. And then the next one is what contending explanatory model of instability. And then we have democracy and constitutionalism. And then the last unit under that module is talking about instability and crisis of association in Africa. So yeah, good morning, everybody. I can see you all. Please try to subscribe. Subscribe. So when next we come live, you can be able to join. Okay, especially if the discussion is something that tickles your fancy. For today, we are discussing politics, African politics. So if you have flair for African politics, you can stick around. Okay. Then the last module here is talking about the race and gender relations and world order. So here you'll be seeing topics like racism and liberation in Southern Africa. You'll be seeing gender politics in Africa. You'll be seeing gender affirmation actions and government response. You'll be seeing Africa in international affairs. And of course, Africa in search for a new world order. So those are the, or rather these are the different topics or segments of the particular course. As a student of this course, I will advise you to sit down and take a very good look at all the topics. We have in total about 21 topics. So you can decide to, study 2 per week, 3 per week, okay, depending on the number of weeks you have before your examination. And with that, you'll be able to cover every ground. And of course, with the help of our classes, it will only get better. Once again, good morning and welcome. So the first topic here was talking about the nature and character of African politics. But before we start looking at what you have in the course material and start discussing from it. Ma, can you tell me when you hear politics, okay, especially in Africa, Nigeria particularly, because we are Nigerians, what is the first thing, what perception do you have when you hear politics? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Hello? Hello?
Hello,
Are
I can
you
hear you,
there?
sir. Yeah.
Yeah, it's asking when you hear politics, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I would say politics is the activity of governing a country or area and making decisions that affect the people living there.
Okay. I was not even asking you to differ. I was like, when you hear politics or when you see politicians, what comes to your mind? What do you really feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel scared? Do you feel worried? Do you feel uncertain? What perception do you have about them?
I don't feel good.
You don't feel good. Oh,
Mm-mm.
okay. So that's fine. There are other people that see politicians as corrupt. They see them as wicked, they see them as inconsiderate, and there are those that actually love them. They see them as smart, bold. So there's a lot that goes into politics. But one of the beautiful things about politics is that these are the people that wield the strongest powers in any region. They are the leaders, they are the one that decide what happens and what does not. So politics is a big deal. It's a very, very major, you know, form of discourse. It's actually wonderful that we are going to be looking at it this morning. Now, what is the background to our politics? Because that's there. That's the main thing that this particular unit is supposed to help us to understand. Okay. Now, before we get into that, let us just have a look at the modular introduction. That is this module itself, which is talking about the background of African politics. What does it talk about in general? Now, this module explains the major components of African politics, particularly the events that preceded the flag independence of most African states. So I remember I was telling you that there are some countries that got their independence after war, after very strong violence. Some of them had to die for the country to be free. And most of these countries, when you look at their flag, you will see red. Nigeria's color, our flag is, there's no red in our flag, it's just white and green because we did not really get independence through war. It was not, our own case was not like that. But there are certain countries that fought, their colonial masters grievously before they could leave them alone. Okay, so yes, independence, very major thing when we talk about African history. Okay, now the two factors that are of great importance in this period is the period of independence, where the devolution of powers by colonial authorities that attracted the nationalists and induced them to convert their movements to political parties, and the modification of the electoral process and constitutional adjustment that made it technically possible for political parties to seek power constitutionally. These factors are responsible for the current problem of the modern African state because it foist on this state a mixture of totalitarian structure and liberal democratic models of government. These irreconcilable differences have pitched African leaders against themselves, thereby struggling to retain power at all costs and appropriating to themselves the influence and privilege of office to the detriment of the ordinary citizen of these states. The resultant of the primitive accumulation of wealth by the African ruling class have been unending wars, sit-tight syndrome, coup d'etats, underdevelopment, and more. So this module is made up of 4 units that will form the basis for further discussion on the background of African politics. So if you go through what I just read out to you, which is an introduction of what the module is going to be talking about, you will see how he started talking about the devolution of powers by the words colonial authorities. The colonial authorities, those foreigners that came to rule, the countries, those that were there, understand the colonial masters. So at a point, they were, about to take their leave and allow the country, the people from the region they were colonizing to now take over power. Okay. And for this to be done, political parties were being created. So these political parties were now the ones that will provide individuals or people that are going to hold different offices. Okay. But we now saw the problem that came up with this. And the problem was that a lot of the what leaders started fighting each other. You understand? A lot of our African leaders, those that came out to rule, they were not at peace, they were not in good terms with one another because they are all fighting for the same thing, and they were also coming from different political parties. Okay. And over time, even till today, we keep seeing this play out over and over and over, whereby one person gets into office, he doesn't want to leave the office, or one particular political party gets hold of an office and they do everything possible to remain there. And that's what they call the sit tight syndrome. Okay. So, and all this has not favored us as a region. Okay, over the years, we keep seeing that Africa has always been on the back end, on the back side of every form of development and innovation, because we have always been, our leaders have always been, having the wrong priority, in the sense that their mind is always consumed with how do I get into power, how do I stay in power, or how do I make sure that the person coming after me is someone that I actually like. I don't know if you are following. So most of the time, our politicians are always thinking about, how to get into power. For example, as we're in Nigeria now, people like oppositions to the current president are all thinking about how to unseat him and take over the office. Okay. Now, while he is there, he is concerned with how do I come back for my second tenure? All right. Yes. And by the time his time is winding up, he knows he's not going to return to the office. Okay. What will he now be doing? He'll be looking at how to see that whoever it is that is coming to succeed him will be someone that has similar interests with him. So all this has not really helped us as a continent. That is what the material is trying to explain. Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so moving forward to the topic of today, the nature and character of African politics. Okay, so talking about the background of African politics, there's quite a lot of things being said here, but the summary of everything being said is that the colonial legacy remains formative in shaping contemporary African politics. Okay, a minute, please. Please, I'm very, very sorry. Oh, very, very sorry, Biko. So I just had to. So let's continue. Where did we stop? Where did we stop?
No, we're discussing about
The 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 background to African politics, right? Unit one.
Yes, sir.
So I want to just briefly summarize all those write-up they have there. So when you read all those write-up under that unit one, when you get to the main content, I don't know if you're looking at your course material, you will see there that let me read this maybe a paragraph so I can know what I'm talking about. If you get to the page 2, where he's talking about background to African politics 3.1, he's saying there that it is difficult to explain and analyze the nature and characteristics of African politics without taking into account the encounter of these states with foreign influences. So who are these foreign influences they're talking about? They're talking about the what? The colonial masters. Do you understand? So what is now described as a colonial legacy is an admission that this asymmetric colonial relation had a formative, if not disruptive or destructive influence on policy in Africa. So they are trying to trace back everything wrong with African politics to what? Why are they tracing it to? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, where are they tracing our problems to? They are tracing it to the colonial masters. That's what they said, foreign. I don't know if you're looking at your course material. That's what they said, foreign influences that you can. Let me read it again. It said, it is difficult to explain, analyze the nature and character of African politics without taking into account the encounter of these states with foreign influence under colonial rule. Did you see that?
Yes, sir.
You know which page am I talking about? Hello?
Can you
Are
hear me,
you
sir?
actually, I'm not hearing you.
Can you
Are
hear me
you
now?
actually like, did you open your course material?
Yes. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
because
I said
because of the platform we're using, I can't share my screen. So I need you to open your course material so that whatever it is I'm saying, if I'm pointing anything, you will know where it's coming from. So because if you go to the summarized text I sent to you, they started by saying that what colonial legacy remains formative in shaping contemporary African politics. So that summary is because of the fact that these paragraphs one have told us in details that what our problem is of foreign influence. So African politics will shift. All the corruption and everything that we have today in African politics is came from the colonial masters. Is a product of the legacy that was left for us by our colonial masters. We learned from the best, and now we are doing more than the best. Okay, so that is basically in layman terms what everything they are seeing here is trying to explain. Now, post-colonial states struggle with grafting European institutions into indigenous structures. Okay, so after colonialism, what happened? We started struggling. We started struggling, and that struggle continued even till today. All right. So let's go to our course material and see why they told us that we are struggling till date. If you go to the second paragraph of that particular page 2, where they said the key issue here is whether an ex-colonial or new state in Africa and a pro-society composed of old nations can evolve very viable political system, institution and structure that can sustain political order. The reality today is that the African post-colonial political setting is a confusing mixture of authoritarian and democratic parliamentary liberal institution. So what they are trying to say now in America, Europe, and other countries, some of those countries that colonize us today, if you look at their government system, their political structure is well defined. If they are using authoritarian rule, you will know. If they are using democratic, you will know. If it is parliamentary, you will know. Their government is well structured and they know what they are doing. Okay, but in the case of our own, there is confusion, there is a mix up. We can, like, for example, in Nigeria, we say we are operating democracy, but are we really operating democratic rule? Obviously not. There's a mixture of so many other things. That is why it look as if some of our politicians are super empowered. They are overpowered. They step outside of what the constitution permits them to do. And there's little or no repercussion for their action. It's because of that what the line has been so blurred that people don't know what is right or wrong. I remember what happened some years back. I think that was when Buhari was still on authority. And then we started having issues, and the legislature could not do anything. The legislation are bills in the parliament. And I remember watching so many talk shows where the state of our country was being discussed. And people were like, when we were in secondary school and we were being taught government, the legislation were being seen as lawmakers. They were so powerful, but yes, ma, key. The one is, ma, up for my bill.
Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Like, I don't know, today, distraction is just too much. I don't know.
I don't know if we can continue tomorrow. There is no problem.
I'll talk to you
Let
on
me
WhatsApp.
just. Hmm?
I'll talk to you on WhatsApp.
Okay, sir. No problem.